What's going on YouTube, and welcome back to the channel. Now I apologize if my glasses are a little bit dirty. I've been away for the last 2 days down in Virginia, and I just got back in early last night. So everything is doing really well with the tank now, but if you follow me on Instagram, you will have known that I had 2 major issues with this tank. Issue number 1 is one that I have had in the past, and that is algae. Now if you followed my channel and watched some of my older videos, you will have known that I battled algae in this system not too long ago. Now this is the first issue that reared its ugly head once again with this system, and I had to combat it. So a few months ago I noticed some green algae growing on my rocks. I didn't think too much of it because I was testing and I was still getting phosphates of around 0. Now the main reason for this is I had shut off my phosphate E as I was switching over to some BRS dosing pumps, and I only had a couple to use, so I prioritized certain things. So after a few weeks of the algae not going away, I reached out to some friends who pointed out that the algae must be consuming the phosphates and causing my test kits to read lower than it should be reading. So immediately I went out and purchased some used BRS 1.1 milliliter per minute pumps, and I hooked one up on phosphate E. Now the phosphate E was able to shock the algae enough where I can read my nutrients, and my phosphates were coming in at 0.3. So I immediately turned up the phosphate E, let it do its thing, and then I went out and picked up some reflux like normal, and I started dosing reflux accordingly. And I also did some manual removal to aid in the removal of the algae at a quicker rate. So I did some manual removal as well as some water changes after the reflux ran its course, and that allowed me to get rid of the algae a little bit faster. So that was issue number 1. Issue number 1 was another algae bloom in the system, which, as you can see, was easily taken care of. I kind of have it down to a science at this point, and I really have no issues with dealing with this type of algae. Now my second issue was that I bought another used BRS 1.1 milliliter per minute pump, and I hooked it up on 2-part Aquaforest alkalinity. Now the reason for this is I was dosing Kalkwasser at the time. I had some acros in the system, and they were consuming large amounts of alkalinity, and the Kalkwasser alone was unable to keep up with the alkalinity. In hopes of supplementing the alkalinity uptake, I hooked up the 2-part from Aquaforest, and I set it up on the BRS pump. So I set up the 2-part to dose at a particular interval on my Wi-Fi outlet. However, I made a mistake and I set the interval 12 hours apart. Now that was a huge issue as I came down halfway throughout the day to notice that the pump hadn't stopped dosing. I immediately went ahead and tested alkalinity, and it came in at around 20 DKH. If you don't know, your DKH number should be between 8 and 12, so 20 was a very high margin. I immediately went into panic mode. I did a massive water change on the system and was able to get it down to 13.6. Now, although that's still really high, I was counting on the frags to be able to consume that alkalinity and bring it down to a lower number. So I went ahead and waited a couple weeks and retested, and the number came down to around 8.6, where it's currently at right now. So everything's doing really well. I didn't lose any coral to the alkalinity spike, and I'm pretty sure that is due to my BRS 1.1 milliliter per minute pump. Helped the coral to acclimate to the high DKH a little bit more. Now if it was any other pump, there would definitely have been a large loss of life in this system. But thanks to the BRS pump, I lucked out. So as you can see, here's the tank today. Everything is doing really well. All the coral are doing great. I had 2 Pocillopores that had a little rough patch, but they're still hanging in there. So we'll see if they're able to make a comeback. Otherwise, all of my encrusted coral have started encrusting on the rock. My acans are growing. Everything is doing really well. As you can see, all the fish are doing perfectly fine except my yellow chorus wrasse, who is showing signs of stress, so he's gonna have to be removed soon. However, I don't know what the chances of me catching him are. I'll probably have to do it at night while he's sleeping somewhere in the sand. So yeah guys, I'll keep you updated on anything else that's up with the tank. As for now, that's the update. You guys have a good one.